Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the quirky world of ancient Egyptian beauty rituals. Picture yourself standing under the warm desert sun, the scent of frankincense drifting through the air, as you step into the heart of a culture that saw beauty as more than just skin deep. In ancient Egypt, beauty wasn't just a way to look good, it was a way to connect with the gods, a ritual that spanned thousands of years. But before you grab your kohl and start contouring, let me warn you, you probably wouldn't survive these ancient beauty routines. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. It's always interesting to know where my viewers are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Now, let's begin with the origins. Beauty rituals in ancient Egypt were about much more than just physical appearance, they were about connecting with the divine. The Egyptians believed that beauty had a spiritual power, a way of communicating with the gods and achieving harmony in the universe. It wasn't just about looking attractive, it was about looking divine. As early as the Old Kingdom, the Egyptians were using cosmetics in rituals that would align them with the gods. Statues of the gods, like Hathor, the goddess of love and beauty, were often adorned with makeup and jewelry, creating an idealized version of beauty that the Egyptians aspired to. Historians still argue whether these rituals were purely cosmetic or if they were truly spiritual, linked to religious practices. While some believe the makeup was just for appearance, others argue that it was deeply symbolic, showing respect to the gods and asking for divine favor. Whatever the case, one thing's for sure, beauty was an essential part of Egyptian life. But what were the specific rituals that made their beauty practices so unique? Let's explore. The ancient Egyptians were obsessed with skincare. They knew that beauty wasn't just about the face, it extended to the whole body. They used a variety of oils and creams to keep their skin soft and glowing, particularly after bathing. One of the most famous beauty treatments involved scented oils, including frankincense and myrrh, which were considered both luxurious and spiritually significant. The oils helped protect the skin from the harsh desert environment, but they were also believed to purify and rejuvenate the body, making it not just a cosmetic act but a spiritual one as well. In fact, the Egyptians took skincare so seriously that they had a range of oils and unguents designed for different parts of the body. For example, the oils used on the face were often different from those used on the body, reflecting the importance of treating every part of the body with care. While these oils helped keep the skin moisturized, they were also seen as a way to maintain an individual's connection to the divine. It's said that some oils were so sacred that they were only used in religious ceremonies or by the elite. Of course, skincare was just the beginning. Another iconic beauty product from ancient Egypt was kohl, used as eyeliner to accentuate the eyes. You've probably seen depictions of Cleopatra or other ancient Egyptians with their bold, dramatic eye makeup. But kohl wasn't just about fashion, it had a dual purpose. While it certainly made the eyes stand out, it was also believed to have protective qualities. The dark eyeliner, made from soot, malachite, and other minerals, was thought to ward off the evil eye, a malevolent force believed to bring bad luck or misfortune. Historians still debate whether kohl was primarily used for beauty or protection. Some believe that it was just a cosmetic tool, while others argue that it was more deeply connected to spiritual beliefs, helping the wearer align with the gods and protect themselves from supernatural forces. Either way, it's clear that kohl had a significant role in Egyptian culture, not just as a beauty product, but as a means of spiritual and physical protection. But let's not forget about perfumes, which were just as crucial to the Egyptians as their beauty routines. Perfumes were made from flowers, herbs, and resins like frankincense and myrrh, which we also see in their skincare rituals. These scents weren't just for smelling good, they were believed to have a direct link to the divine. The Egyptians believed that pleasing the gods with sweet-smelling scents would bring divine favor. In fact, many temples would burn incense during religious ceremonies to invite the gods into their space. Perfume bottles were often made of glass, decorated with gold and precious stones, reflecting the wealth and luxury of the person who owned them. But the practice wasn't just about lavishness. The scent itself was thought to have a calming and protective effect on the body, purifying both the individual and the space around them. Some perfumes were even used in rituals, where they were believed to enhance the spiritual connection between the person and the gods. Now, Let's talk about something a little more unusual. Wigs. Ancient Egyptians didn't just rely on their natural hair, they took hair care to the next level. Wigs were worn by both men and women, especially the elite. Made from plant fibers or human hair, these wigs were styled in intricate patterns to indicate one's social status. The more elaborate the wig, the higher the person's rank. But wigs were also more than just a beauty accessory. They served a practical purpose too. The harsh desert sun could damage the scalp, so wigs provided protection, keeping the head cool and shaded. The Egyptians took their hair care so seriously that they often had dedicated servants to help them maintain their wigs. These servants would use oils and combs to keep the hair looking its best, and they would often apply perfumes to the wigs, ensuring that the wearer always smelled fresh and divine. In fact, many pharaohs and nobles had entire teams of people responsible for their appearance. This elaborate care for one's hair and appearance was not just about status, it was about staying in favor with the gods and maintaining a divine appearance in both life and death. Historians still argue whether the widespread use of wigs was about status or practicality. While wigs clearly indicated wealth and nobility, they also served a functional purpose. The practical side of wearing wigs likely helped protect individuals from the sun and kept them cool during the heat of the day, which in a country as hot as Egypt was no small feat. The Egyptian connection between beauty and spirituality didn't end with makeup, oils, and wigs. The very act of beautifying oneself was seen as a way to align with the divine, to be closer to the gods, and to achieve balance and harmony in life. From their daily skincare routines to the elaborate perfumes they wore, beauty rituals in Egypt were a way of maintaining divine favor and social standing. Beauty in ancient Egypt wasn't just about looking good, it was a spiritual and social necessity. Cleopatra, the name itself brings to mind images of luxury, exotic beauty, and power. But what made her beauty so legendary? Was it her sharp intellect, her diplomatic prowess, or her stunning looks that captivated the rulers of Rome? Let's take a peek behind the myths and explore the real secrets behind Cleopatra's beauty. Cleopatra's beauty rituals were rumored to be almost magical. One of her most famous routines involved bathing in milk, which, according to ancient historians, helped her maintain her soft skin. Milk, rich in lactic acid, would have gently exfoliated her skin, leaving it smooth and glowing. But Cleopatra wasn't just about pampering herself, she was about controlling her image. She used makeup and fashion as tools for political and personal gain. Historians still argue whether Cleopatra's beauty was as captivating as legend suggests, or whether her charm came from her intelligence and charisma. Either way, it's clear that her beauty was strategically enhanced. Her famous use of kohl around her eyes wasn't just for aesthetics. It had a dual purpose: to protect her eyes from the harsh desert sun and to create a striking, almost hypnotic look that emphasized her status and power. Let's not forget her fashion, which was as grand as the rest of her appearance. Cleopatra, often dressed in rich, flowing garments made of silk and linen, decorated with intricate gold jewelry. Her attire was a reflection of her royal power, designed to command respect and awe. From her extravagant hairstyles to her royal makeup, Cleopatra's beauty was more than skin deep. It was about presenting herself as the living embodiment of the goddess Isis. Now that we've set the stage with Cleopatra, let's zoom in on the everyday beauty practices that were part of life for ancient Egyptians. You might imagine that these lavish rituals were only for royalty, but in fact, many Egyptians, both rich and poor, were invested in their appearance. There was an underlying belief that how you looked could influence the gods, and that beauty was a reflection of inner health and divine favor. One of the most iconic beauty products of ancient Egypt was the eye makeup known as kohl. If you've ever seen a depiction of an Egyptian pharaoh or queen, you've probably noticed their bold, dramatic eyeliner. But the origins of kohl are more than just cosmetic, they were practical and spiritual too. The ancient Egyptians believed that the darkened eyes would ward off the evil eye, a malevolent force that could bring misfortune. Applying kohl wasn't just a beauty ritual, it was a protective one. The Egyptians used a mixture of soot, malachite, and other minerals to create the dark pigment. Sometimes it was applied in bold lines, other times in softer, more subtle strokes. But why did kohl specifically protect against the evil eye? Historians still argue whether the dark makeup was believed to literally shield the wearer from curses, or if it symbolized a deeper connection with the gods, particularly Horus. the god of protection. It's fascinating that such a simple beauty tool could carry so much weight in both a cultural and spiritual context. The eyeliner wasn't just for show, it was a link to the divine, a shield against harm, and a reflection of the high status one could achieve through these rituals. While kohl was used primarily around the eyes, Egyptians didn't stop there. Their use of cosmetics extended to their whole face, particularly with the use of creams and oils. Beauty was an all-encompassing concept, where both men and women would regularly apply oils to their bodies and faces, especially after bathing. The Egyptians were obsessed with skincare, and they created a range of oils and ointments designed to soften the skin and prevent aging. A common ingredient in these concoctions was frankincense, prized for its scent and skin-healing properties. The oils were often mixed with herbs like myrrh, which helped to soothe and nourish the skin. They would apply these oils in an effort to maintain youthful looks, and it's said that the oils also had a calming effect, soothing the mind as much as the skin. And of course, there's the matter of perfume. Egypt was renowned for its perfumes, which were made from a variety of precious flowers, herbs, and resins. The process of making perfume in ancient Egypt was an art in itself. Flowers such as lotus, jasmine, and lily were the most common ingredients, mixed with fragrant resins from trees like cedar and frankincense. The perfume would be stored in beautiful glass bottles, often adorned with gold or precious stones, making them objects of both luxury and spiritual significance. The scent of these perfumes was said to have a profound effect on both the wearer and those around them. Perfumes in Egypt were not only used to attract suitors, but were also thought to please the gods. It was believed that gods and goddesses could be enticed by sweet scents, and by wearing these fragrances, Egyptians hoped to gain the gods' favor. This concept of pleasing the divine through beauty rituals extended beyond perfumes to other aspects of their appearance, where beauty was seen as a bridge between the mortal and divine realms. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians' obsession with scent was as deeply connected to their religious practices as it seems. Was the perfume just for beauty, or was it a sacred offering to the gods themselves? Some scholars speculate that the Egyptians believed the act of anointing themselves with sweet-smelling oils and perfumes would not only bring beauty but also protect them in the afterlife. While perfumes and oils helped maintain a certain image in daily life, another common practice involved intricate hairstyling and care. Now, we're not just talking about the occasional bad hair day here. Ancient Egyptians went to great lengths to maintain their hair, especially the elite. Most elite Egyptians wore wigs, which were crafted from human hair or plant fibers. These wigs were often styled in elaborate designs to suit the wearer's social status. For both men and women, wigs could be a statement of wealth and power. The wigs were often scented with oils and perfumes, adding yet another layer of luxury to the practice. The Egyptians also used a range of hair care products, such as oils and combs, to maintain their natural hair. In fact, the most elite members of society, like pharaohs and their families, had entire teams of servants dedicated to maintaining their wigs and ensuring their hair was always perfectly styled. Historians still argue whether the use of wigs was entirely practical or more about status. While wigs would help protect the scalp from the sun and dust, they also symbolized the person's elevated position in society. Those who could afford luxurious wigs and hair care were showcasing their divine connection, and their wealth was on full display. Interestingly, the practice of wearing wigs wasn't exclusive to women. Men, particularly high-ranking officials, also wore wigs as a sign of their importance. The ancient Egyptians had beauty routines that spanned more than just appearance. They were deeply tied to their spiritual and social identities. The connection between beauty and the gods was clear. Beauty wasn't merely a physical attribute, it was a sign of divine favor, prosperity, and protection. Every ritual, every product, and every cosmetic was designed to bring the wearer closer to the gods or to maintain their position within society. So far, we've explored the royal beauty rituals, but what about the common folk? Were they simply relying on the leftovers of the pharaoh's grand luxury, or did they have their own version of the beauty secrets? In fact, beauty was just as important to the everyday Egyptians, and many of their routines were similar to those of the elites, though they had to be more resourceful with what they had. While the elite may have had access to the finest imported oils and resins, the common Egyptian had their own way of enhancing their beauty with what was locally available. For instance, they too would use kohl to darken their eyelids and brows, But for many, it wasn't just a matter of beauty, it was a matter of survival in a harsh environment. Kohl not only provided the wearer with a striking look, but also protected their eyes from the glaring desert sunday. In addition to makeup, oils and perfumes were not reserved solely for the wealthy. Everyone, from peasants to royalty, made use of oils in their daily routines. The oils were commonly scented with local herbs or flowers, often made from materials like beeswax, olive oil, or sesame oil. These oils didn't just moisturize the skin, they also acted as a form of protection against the elements, particularly the intense heat and the dry desert air. But there was another, somewhat quirky purpose to these oils. They kept the dreaded lice at bay. In an environment where hygiene was often difficult to maintain, these oils served as a kind of pest deterrent, keeping the hair and skin clean and free from unwanted critters. Historians still argue whether these oils were used more for medicinal purposes, acting as a barrier to skin ailments, or whether they were primarily for beauty. Given their widespread use across all levels of society, one could assume that they served both practical and aesthetic purposes. And just like the elite, common Egyptians also understood the significance of scent. But rather than using exotic ingredients, their perfumes were more likely to consist of natural, locally grown herbs, such as mint, lily, and lotus, all of which had both healing and fragrance properties. Now, what about the ancient Egyptians and their grooming habits beyond skincare? As I mentioned earlier, wigs were a huge part of ancient Egyptian fashion, not just for the elite but for everyone. The common Egyptians weren't donning intricate wigs made of imported human hair, but they were still sporting head coverings and simpler forms of wigs, often made from plant fibers. Even these simpler wigs were an essential part of Egyptian fashion and comfort, helping protect the scalp from the harsh sun while offering the same status and style. Women would wear their hair in intricate braids, often adorned with beads or other decorations, while men would either shave their heads or wear simple headpieces, depending on their social standing. These wigs were a sign of cleanliness and, like the oils and perfumes, helped maintain the spiritual and physical cleanliness of the wearer. Interestingly, the practice of wearing wigs and caring for one's hair wasn't just about fashion, it was deeply symbolic. Wigs, as with other aspects of beauty, were a way of connecting with the divine. By wearing a wig or a headpiece, one was symbolically placing themselves in the divine order of the universe. The ancient Egyptians believed that appearance and cleanliness were a reflection of one's alignment with the gods, and so hair care was just as sacred as skincare. We also can't forget about the role of jewelry in these beauty rituals. Jewelry in ancient Egypt wasn't just a fashion statement, it had religious significance. Necklaces, earrings, and bracelets were often made from gold and semi-precious stones like lapis lazuli and turquoise, materials that were prized for their beauty and symbolic power. These items weren't just worn for adornment, they were believed to have protective properties. For instance, amulets shaped like scarabs were worn for good luck, while other pieces were thought to ward off evil spirits. Much like their cosmetics and perfumes, jewelry had both a practical and spiritual purpose. Historians debate whether the jewelry's purpose was primarily to signify wealth or to invoke divine protection. Certainly, those in the higher echelons of society were able to wear more elaborate and expensive pieces, but even the common Egyptian wore simple jewelry, which they believed would protect them from harm and bring them closer to the gods. In fact, much of the beauty practices in ancient Egypt were a balance between practicality and divine symbolism. Whether it was the kohl that protected their eyes from the sun or the perfumes that connected them with the gods, beauty in ancient Egypt wasn't just about looking good, it was about spiritual alignment, protection, and health. The rituals were not reserved for the wealthy or royal. They were a part of daily life for all Egyptians, with each individual adding their own touch of personal care, from the simplest oils to the most elaborate wigs. What's most fascinating is how these practices reflected the ancient Egyptians' deep connection to their gods. Each beauty ritual was a reflection of the divine order they sought to maintain in their lives. It was a way of honoring the gods, ensuring protection, and living in harmony with the world around them. These practices were passed down through generations, and many of them are still part of our modern beauty routines today. It's clear that the ancient Egyptians understood beauty in a way that was both physical and spiritual, and their rituals have left a legacy that continues to influence beauty practices to this day. Historians still debate whether these beauty rituals were as sacred and powerful as the Egyptians believed, but one thing is certain: they saw beauty not just as an external quality, but as a reflection of inner balance and divine favor. And as we look back on these ancient rituals, we can't help but marvel at how much they understood about the connection between beauty, health, and spirituality. Now that we've taken a deep dive into the beauty rituals of everyday Egyptians, let's shift gears and focus on the more elaborate practices that were reserved for the elites, royals, and high-ranking officials. These were the individuals who had access to the finest materials and the most skilled artisans. Their beauty routines were not only about appearance, but also about demonstrating their divine connection and their power in the social hierarchy. The Egyptians were known for their meticulous grooming, and when it came to the royal courts, beauty was a symbol of more than just physical allure. It was a statement of authority. Pharaohs, queens, and nobles would go to great lengths to maintain their regal appearances. Their beauty practices were elaborate and included a variety of products, from perfumes to precious oils and cosmetics, many of which were only available to the wealthy. These practices reflected their elevated status and their belief that maintaining beauty was a way of pleasing the gods and staying in their favor. One of the most significant aspects of royal beauty was the use of high-end cosmetics and oils. While everyday Egyptians had access to basic oils and perfumes, royalty used specially prepared versions made from the finest ingredients, such as imported frankincense, myrrh, and even oils infused with precious flowers like lotus. These cosmetics weren't just used for enhancing their appearance, but were believed to carry spiritual significance. The act of anointing oneself with these oils was seen as a purification process, a way of aligning the body with the gods. It wasn't just about looking good. It was about keeping oneself in harmony with the divine forces that govern the universe. Let's talk about the concept of beauty in the royal court. The elite had personal attendants who were dedicated to their grooming. These attendants would spend hours preparing their masters for public appearances or royal functions. It's said that Cleopatra, one of the most famous beauty icons in history, would have been attended to by a team of servants who helped maintain her looks. These servants were skilled in the art of applying makeup, perfume, and oils, and it was their job to ensure that the queen always looked divine. The Egyptians didn't just wear makeup, they embodied it. Every application of kohl, every dab of perfume, every brush of oil was part of a process that not only enhanced their beauty, but also served a spiritual purpose. The royal court also used beauty as a tool for political power. The image of a pharaoh or queen wasn't just crafted for aesthetic reasons, it was carefully curated to reinforce their divine right to rule. The way they presented themselves through makeup, clothing, and even posture was a deliberate effort to project an image of strength, wisdom, and divine favor. Just as their appearance was carefully managed, so too was their public persona. The royalty had to maintain an air of mystery and godliness to ensure that they were seen as powerful and untouchable by their subjects. Historians still debate whether the physical beauty of figures like Cleopatra and Nefertiti played a direct role in their political successes, or whether their influence was more a result of their intelligence and leadership. It's likely a combination of both. The image of the queen as a goddess was perpetuated through the careful maintenance of her beauty, which was seen as a direct extension of her power. After all, when you look at the statues of Cleopatra or Nefertiti, it's hard to deny that they were designed to project divine beauty, a beauty that went beyond the surface and into the realm of the divine. Let's also consider the role of elaborate wigs in the royal court. Wigs were not just a beauty accessory, they were an important symbol of status. The more elaborate the wig, the higher the person's rank in society. The royal family and high-ranking officials wore wigs made from the finest materials, including human hair and plant fibers. These wigs were styled in intricate ways that reflected the current fashion trends and the person's social status. In fact, wigs became such an essential part of royal attire that even the pharaohs and queens would not be seen in public without them. Much like the makeup and perfume, the wigs were carefully curated to create an image of divinity and power. The ancient Egyptians understood the importance of public perception, and their elaborate grooming practices were designed to ensure that they were always seen as living gods or goddesses. But it wasn't just about the face and hair. The elite also paid careful attention to their bodies. Body hair was often removed to ensure that the skin remained soft and smooth, and it was common for the wealthy to undergo full-body treatments using fragrant oils and soothing balms. These treatments were seen as a way to ensure that the body remained in perfect condition, as a reflection of the ideal of eternal youth. Some scholars believe that these beauty rituals were designed to prepare the body for the afterlife, ensuring that the deceased would look as perfect in death as they did in life. This connection between beauty and the afterlife is key to understanding the ancient Egyptians' approach to beauty. For them, maintaining beauty wasn't just about presenting a flawless exterior to the world, it was about preparing for eternity. The Egyptians believed that the way you looked in life would determine your experience in the afterlife. To them, beauty was a sign of divine favor, and they took great care to ensure that they maintained that favor both during their lifetime and in the afterlife. Historians still debate the extent to which beauty rituals were directly linked to the afterlife, but it's clear that the ancient Egyptians saw beauty as a key part of their spiritual journey. Whether it was through the careful application of makeup, the use of oils, or the wearing of wigs, beauty was intertwined with their religious beliefs. It was seen as a way of aligning oneself with the gods and preparing for the journey into the afterlife. As we look back on these ancient beauty rituals, it's fascinating to see how they blend the physical and spiritual realms. Beauty was never just about vanity in ancient Egypt, it was about divinity, protection, and the assurance of eternal life. These rituals have left a lasting legacy, influencing beauty standards for centuries and continuing to shape the way we think about beauty today. Let's shift now from the glamour of the royal courts to one of the more quirky and lesser-known aspects of ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, body art. In a society where beauty was a direct reflection of the gods, Egyptians didn't just settle for standard cosmetics and hair care. They also used tattoos and body paintings as powerful symbols of status, protection, and personal expression. Yes, you heard me right. Tattoos were part of the ancient Egyptian beauty routine. It's fascinating to think of the ancient Egyptians as trendsetters in body art. Tattoos weren't just decorative, they were believed to carry protective powers, helping to ward off evil spirits or provide spiritual blessings. In fact, some of the earliest evidence of tattoos in Egypt comes from mummies, where tattoos have been found on the skin of women, suggesting that this form of body art had cultural and spiritual significance. The tattoos often depicted symbols of protection, such as the Ankh or the Eye of Horus, which were used as talismans to bring good health and ward off negative forces. Historians still debate whether the tattoos were purely for aesthetic reasons or if they had deeper spiritual meanings. Some scholars argue that tattoos were used as a form of protection, much like the kohl and oils we've already discussed. The ink used for these tattoos was often made from soot, which was carefully applied using needles or sharp tools. But these tattoos weren't just for women. There is evidence to suggest that men, especially soldiers and priests, also wore tattoos as a symbol of strength and divine favor. It's thought that tattoos might have been used as a form of identification as well, marking an individual's rank or role in society. Despite their popularity, body art wasn't limited to tattoos. Egyptians also practiced henna painting, which was applied to the hands and feet. Henna, a plant-based dye, would leave a temporary mark on the skin, and it was often used during religious ceremonies or festivals. This form of body art, unlike tattoos, could be easily washed off, making it a flexible choice for those who wanted to maintain a divine appearance without permanent markings. Henna designs were often intricate, featuring geometric shapes and floral patterns, and were seen as a way to enhance beauty for special occasions. Interestingly, both tattoos and henna were considered more than just fashion trends. They were seen as deeply connected to the divine. The symbols and patterns used in tattoos and henna were thought to align the wearer with specific gods and goddesses, giving them spiritual protection and favor. In this sense, beauty rituals in Egypt were not simply for vanity. They were tools to ensure that the individual was in harmony with the gods, and that they would be protected both in this life and the afterlife. Of course, the elite were not the only ones to engage in these beauty rituals. As with many other aspects of Egyptian life, beauty and protection were available to all members of society, though in varying degrees. Common people might not have had access to the finest perfumes or cosmetics, but they too used body art as a form of protection and beauty enhancement. The difference between the rich and the poor lay mostly in the materials used. While the elite could afford elaborate tattoos and perfumes, the common people relied on more accessible forms of body art, such as henna. Historians still debate the social implications of body art in ancient Egypt. Was it a universal practice, or was it reserved for specific classes of society? The evidence we have suggests that tattoos and henna were widespread, but they may have held different meanings for different social classes. For the elite, tattoos and body art may have been more about reinforcing their divine status and power. For the common folk, body art was a way of aligning themselves with the divine forces and ensuring that they were protected from harm. As we step back and look at the larger picture, it's clear that beauty in ancient Egypt wasn't just about looking attractive. It was about aligning with the gods, ensuring protection, and maintaining a harmonious balance in life. Whether it was through the use of cosmetics, perfumes, wigs, or tattoos, beauty rituals were a way of asserting one's divine right and maintaining a connection to the spiritual world. This connection to the divine is what sets Egyptian beauty apart from what we might consider beauty today. In Egypt, beauty was never superficial, it was spiritual, powerful, and intertwined with the divine order. But even beyond the beauty rituals themselves, the Egyptians understood that beauty had the power to transcend life and death. This is where we move into the fascinating practice of beauty in the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians were one of the first cultures to associate beauty with immortality. They believed that the way you looked in life was how you would appear in the afterlife, which is why preserving beauty was a crucial part of the mummification process. The ancient Egyptians went to great lengths to ensure that the deceased were well groomed, dressed, and adorned with jewelry and cosmetics to maintain their divine appearance in the afterlife. The tombs of the pharaohs and nobles are filled with evidence of these afterlife beauty rituals. The dead were often buried with their most treasured beauty products, including perfumes, oils, and jewelry, to ensure that they would have access to these luxuries in the afterlife. Even their faces were carefully preserved. The famous funerary masks of pharaohs like Tutankhamun are a testament to the lengths the Egyptians went to preserve beauty. These masks were intricately crafted to ensure that the pharaoh would always look divine, even in death. Historians still argue whether the extensive efforts to preserve beauty in the afterlife were purely practical, ensuring that the deceased would be properly equipped for their journey, or whether they had a deeper spiritual significance. Some believe that these beauty rituals were meant to ensure that the deceased would remain attractive in the afterlife, but others suggest that they were a way of ensuring that the deceased would be recognized and honored by the gods. Regardless of the reasons behind them, it's clear that beauty in ancient Egypt was far more than just a fleeting vanity. It was a powerful force that shaped both life and death. Beauty, in Egypt, wasn't just about how one looked. It was about aligning with the divine, achieving eternal life, and ensuring that one's legacy would be preserved for all eternity. Now, we've covered everything from the divine beauty rituals of the pharaohs to the tattoos and henna used by common folk. But there's still one more essential part of Egyptian beauty practices we need to explore, something that ties it all together: the concept of cosmetic medicine. In ancient Egypt, beauty and health were often intertwined, and many of the beauty treatments we associate with vanity also served a very practical purpose. Take, for example, the use of oils and ointments. While they certainly helped maintain soft, smooth skin, these products were also essential for personal hygiene. Egypt's desert environment, with its intense heat and dust, made it necessary to keep the skin moisturized and protected from the harsh conditions. Oils like sesame and olive oil were used not only to keep the skin from drying out, but also to protect the body from the elements. They helped seal moisture in, prevent sunburn, and acted as a barrier against dirt and grime. But this use of oils wasn't just about preserving beauty, it was also about health. In fact, many of the ancient Egyptians' beauty rituals were linked to hygiene and overall well-being. They believed that maintaining good health and a well-kept body was essential for divine favor. The Egyptians had a sophisticated understanding of health and beauty, and many of their beauty treatments were as much about healing as they were about aesthetics. For example, the use of honey and other natural ingredients in their beauty routines wasn't just for softening skin, it was also medicinal. Honey, which is known for its antibacterial properties, was used as an antiseptic to treat wounds and infections. Some of the oils and creams they used also had anti-inflammatory effects, helping to soothe irritated skin and heal minor injuries. Many of these treatments are still used today, a testament to the enduring wisdom of the ancient Egyptians when it came to skincare. Historians still debate how much the Egyptians understood the medical benefits of these treatments. or if they simply believed they were part of divine favor. Some argue that they knew these products had health benefits, while others believe their use was more a matter of tradition and ritual. Either way, there's no denying that beauty and health were seen as inseparable in ancient Egypt. Keeping your skin soft, your hair groomed, and your body adorned with precious oils was as much about feeling healthy as it was about looking beautiful. And in a culture as spiritually focused as ancient Egypt, the two were always connected to the divine. But health wasn't just about beauty products, it was also about fitness. Ancient Egyptians were keenly aware of the need to maintain a strong, healthy body. Although they didn't have gyms like we do today, physical activity was an important part of their daily lives. From working in the fields to the athletic events that were part of religious ceremonies, the ancient Egyptians placed a great emphasis on physical strength and endurance. Evidence suggests that sports and physical games were not only a form of entertainment, but also a way to promote health and maintain an ideal body. Wrestling, archery, and even games similar to modern-day field hockey were popular in Egypt. These activities were not just for fun, they were a way to ensure that one's body remained strong and in perfect condition. In fact, ancient Egyptian artwork often depicts muscular bodies, indicating that physical strength was admired and celebrated in their culture. Historians still argue whether fitness was an everyday pursuit for the common Egyptian or whether it was more of a royal activity. Some believe that physical exercise was reserved for the upper classes, particularly the soldiers and athletes who were part of the elite. Others think that it was part of everyday life for Egyptians as a way of ensuring health, longevity, and spiritual well-being. Either way, the Egyptians were ahead of their time in understanding the importance of physical health as part of overall beauty. And just as their beauty rituals were tied to health and spirituality, so too were their funerary practices. Death and the afterlife were central to Egyptian life, and the way one appeared in death was just as important as how they appeared in life. As I mentioned earlier, the Egyptians believed that beauty was a way to preserve the soul for eternity. The process of mummification was not only about preserving the body, it was about preserving beauty for the afterlife. The mummified bodies of pharaohs, nobles, and elites were carefully embalmed, with every detail of their appearance preserved. The body was treated with oils and perfumes to ensure it would remain as beautiful and divine as possible for eternity. The famous funerary masks of pharaohs like Tutankhamun, made of gold and adorned with lapis lazuli, are a testament to the effort the Egyptians put into preserving beauty for the afterlife. These masks were not only meant to protect the body but also to reflect the divine beauty of the ruler in the afterlife. Historians still debate the reasons behind the mummification process. Was it simply a practical measure to preserve the body, or was it a deeply spiritual ritual designed to ensure the soul would continue to enjoy the same beauty in the afterlife? Some scholars believe the elaborate process was about ensuring that the deceased would be recognized and honored by the gods, while others argue that it was simply a reflection of the Egyptians' obsession with beauty and the desire to maintain an idealized form even in death. In the end, what's clear is that beauty in ancient Egypt was more than just an outward appearance. It was a spiritual practice, a divine connection, and a way of maintaining power, health, and prosperity. Whether it was through the use of makeup, oils, body art, or physical fitness, the Egyptians understood that beauty was tied to both the physical world and the divine realm. They saw beauty as a reflection of their relationship with the gods, a way to ensure protection, health, and divine favor. And the legacy of these beauty rituals has survived for thousands of years, continuing to influence our modern beauty practices in ways we can still see today. Now that we've covered the physical and spiritual beauty rituals of ancient Egyptians, let's take a closer look at the enduring legacy of these practices. When we think about the influence of ancient Egypt on modern beauty and wellness routines, we might immediately think of things like perfume, skincare, and makeup. But the influence of Egyptian beauty rituals goes far deeper than these surface-level practices. Their approach to beauty was holistic, blending health, spirituality, and aesthetics in a way that has impacted cultures around the world, shaping beauty standards that are still prevalent today. The first and most obvious connection we see today is the continued use of perfumes. Ancient Egyptians were the pioneers in creating perfumes from a variety of natural ingredients, using flowers like jasmine, lotus, and myrrh. Their knowledge of scent was so advanced that even today, many modern fragrances are inspired by the scents of Egypt. The practice of using scent to enhance beauty and attract divine favor is still relevant, with many cultures using perfumes not just for vanity, but to invoke feelings of calm, confidence, or even to evoke the sacred. This use of fragrance as a personal ritual continues in modern wellness, where essential oils are incorporated into everything from aromatherapy to skincare. Another area where we see Egyptian beauty rituals influencing modern practices is in the use of oils for skincare. The Egyptians used oils and ointments not only to moisturize their skin, but also to protect it from the harsh desert sun and keep it looking youthful. This practice is mirrored in today's beauty industry, where oils are celebrated for their hydrating and anti-aging properties. Whether it's rosehip oil, argan oil, or the more recent trend of facial oils, the underlying principle remains the same. Oils are a way of nourishing and protecting the skin while maintaining a radiant appearance. The ancient Egyptians also understood the importance of maintaining strong, healthy hair, and their use of wigs is well known. But hair care wasn't just about looking good, it was a reflection of one's status and position in society. Today, the global hair care industry draws upon similar principles, with elaborate hair treatments, hair masks, and wigs being an integral part of many cultures. Much like the Egyptians, we now understand that healthy hair is a sign of vitality and beauty, and it continues to be a key aspect of personal grooming and self-care routines. The practice of using makeup, especially eyeliner, has similarly stood the test of time. Kohl, the ancient Egyptian eyeliner, was used not just for beauty but also for protection from the sun's glare and for warding off the evil eye. The symbolism behind eyeliner persists today in the form of makeup that enhances one's features while also serving cultural and spiritual meanings. While the modern world may not rely on eyeliner for protection against malevolent forces, the practice of accentuating the eyes remains one of the most powerful tools in makeup artistry, symbolizing confidence, allure, and self-expression. Beyond the products and practices themselves, the ancient Egyptian worldview also contributed to a deeper, more philosophical understanding of beauty that still resonates today. For the Egyptians, beauty was inseparable from health, divinity, and order. This is reflected in how we think about beauty in the modern world. We understand that looking good isn't just about external appearance, it's about feeling good, being in balance, and taking care of oneself in a holistic way. Ancient Egypt's approach to beauty was about achieving harmony with nature and the gods, and today, many of us strive for that same balance, whether it's through skincare, fitness, or spiritual wellness practices. Historians still debate how much of the ancient Egyptians' beauty rituals were solely about appearance, and how much was about maintaining spiritual balance. Some argue that beauty was an external manifestation of inner health and divine favor, while others see it as purely a way to project power, status, and divinity. Regardless of which interpretation you subscribe to, what remains clear is that beauty was deeply embedded in every aspect of Egyptian life, from daily routines to the afterlife. Their beauty practices, which were closely linked to religion, wellness, and personal identity, left an indelible mark on the way we approach beauty today. The ancient Egyptians were one of the first civilizations to recognize the importance of maintaining beauty in both life and death, and their rituals were centered around the idea that beauty was not just for the moment, it was eternal. The cosmetics they used, the oils they applied, the perfumes they wore, all of these were part of a belief system that beauty was a reflection of their relationship with the divine and their understanding of the universe. As we look at how beauty has evolved over time, from ancient Egypt to the present day, we can trace many of our modern beauty rituals back to those early practices. The Egyptians understood that beauty was not just about outward appearance, it was a holistic concept that involved mind, body, and spirit. It's this enduring legacy that continues to shape how we approach beauty, wellness, and self-care today. Beauty was never just superficial for the Egyptians. It was an expression of life, of divine connection, and of spiritual harmony. As we continue to explore our own beauty practices, it's worth remembering that the Egyptians saw beauty as something far more profound than a fleeting trend. It was a pathway to the divine, an expression of our inner selves, and a connection to the eternal. And perhaps if we look closely, we'll find that these ancient rituals hold timeless wisdom, reminding us that beauty is not just what we see on the outside, but how we care for our minds, bodies, and spirits. As we near the end of our journey through ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, Let's take a moment to reflect on how deeply intertwined these practices were with the culture's spiritual beliefs and daily life. Ancient Egyptians didn't just see beauty as something superficial. It was an expression of their connection to the gods, the natural world, and the cosmos. The beauty rituals we've discussed, from skincare to hair care, body art, and perfume, all had a deeper meaning that went beyond the mere physical. They were about maintaining harmony and balance in life, ensuring protection from the forces of evil, and preparing for the afterlife. Let's talk about the afterlife for a moment, as this was one of the most profound aspects of Egyptian beauty rituals. As I've mentioned earlier, the ancient Egyptians placed incredible importance on maintaining one's beauty even after death. The process of mummification was not just about preserving the physical body, it was about ensuring that the deceased would continue to be recognized as beautiful and divine in the afterlife. The mummified body, carefully preserved with oils and cosmetics, was believed to be the vessel for the soul's journey into eternity. The famous funerary masks of pharaohs like Tutankhamun, made from gold and adorned with lapis lazuli, were not merely decorative, they were designed to preserve the royal image for eternity. These masks were a way of ensuring that the pharaoh would continue to embody divine beauty long after their earthly reign had ended. Even in death, the Egyptians believed that beauty was a reflection of the divine, and it was crucial for maintaining one's divine right to rule in the afterlife. Historians still debate how much of this emphasis on beauty in the afterlife was a reflection of the Egyptians' belief in the soul's immortality versus their desire to maintain power and legacy. Some argue that the elaborate funerary practices were a way to ensure that the deceased would continue to exert influence in the afterlife, while others suggest that they were purely spiritual rituals meant to honor the gods. Regardless of the interpretation, one thing is clear: beauty was seen as eternal, transcending death, and continuing to play a vital role in Egyptian life. And even beyond the rituals of death, the concept of divine beauty extended into the world of mythology. Ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses were often depicted as being extraordinarily beautiful, with their beauty representing their divine nature. For example, the goddess Hathor, who was associated with love, music, and beauty, was often portrayed as a radiant woman with a cow's ears, symbolizing both fertility and the nurturing power of beauty. The gods' beauty wasn't just a superficial characteristic, it was a sign of their power, wisdom, and divine essence. These divine depictions of beauty influenced how the Egyptians viewed themselves and their own beauty practices. They saw their own beauty as a reflection of the gods, as a way of embodying divine qualities in their daily lives. So, what does this all mean for us today? While our modern beauty routines may not be as tied to spiritual beliefs or the afterlife as the Egyptians were, many of the underlying principles still resonate with us. We still believe in the power of beauty to influence our confidence, self-image, and well-being. Like the ancient Egyptians, we seek to maintain our beauty not just for outward appearance, but to feel aligned with our inner selves, our culture, and sometimes even our spirituality. Just like the Egyptians, we use beauty products, from skincare to perfumes, as a way to enhance our connection with the world around us. In fact, many modern beauty rituals are built upon the practices established by the ancient Egyptians. The use of oils for skincare, the application of makeup to accentuate the eyes, and the wearing of fragrances to enhance one's presence, all have roots in ancient Egypt. These beauty practices were not just about looking good, they were about feeling good, maintaining balance, and aligning with something larger than oneself. Historians still argue whether beauty in ancient Egypt was purely about physical appearance or if it was a deeper spiritual practice. Some scholars believe that the Egyptians used beauty as a way to align themselves with the gods, while others think it was more about maintaining societal order and power. In either case, what's clear is that beauty in Egypt was never just about vanity. It was an essential part of life, tied to health, protection, and spirituality. As we reflect on the legacy of ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, it's evident that their practices had a lasting impact on beauty standards throughout history and continue to influence us today. The Egyptians understood that beauty wasn't just a fleeting trend, it was a powerful force that connected them to the divine, the natural world, and the cosmos. Their beauty rituals were a way of achieving harmony in life, ensuring protection from the forces of evil, and preparing for the afterlife. These ancient practices were deeply tied to spirituality. and they remind us that beauty is not just skin deep, it's a reflection of our inner selves and our connection to something greater than ourselves. As we conclude our journey into the world of ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, we can't help but marvel at how these practices have endured for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians may have been long gone, but their understanding of beauty, health, and spirituality continues to shape our lives today. Beauty, for them, was a way to honor the gods, maintain divine order, and secure a place in the afterlife. And perhaps, as we continue to navigate our own beauty routines, we can take a page from the ancient Egyptians and remember that true beauty is not just about what we see in the mirror, it's about what we feel inside and the connections we create with the world around us. As we come closer to the end of our deep dive into the beauty rituals of ancient Egypt, let's take a moment to reflect on how these practices have shaped the modern world. While many of the beauty standards and rituals may seem distant, the core principles of self-care, spiritual alignment, and health continue to resonate with us today. The Egyptians were pioneers in understanding the importance of beauty as a holistic practice, blending physical, spiritual, and mental well-being into one. What's truly fascinating is how many of the beauty practices we take for granted today were born in ancient Egypt. Think about skincare, for instance. We use oils, moisturizers, and face creams every day, but these practices have their roots in ancient Egypt. The use of oils for cleansing, moisturizing, and even treating wounds was widespread in Egypt long before modern skincare products hit the shelves. Egyptians didn't just slather on oils to make themselves look good. They believed that using these products connected them to the divine. Oils like olive oil, sesame oil, and frankincense were seen not only as beauty enhancers but as spiritual and medicinal aids. In modern skincare, we've come to understand that oils can have a variety of benefits for the skin. Whether it's preventing dryness, treating acne, or providing anti-aging effects, oils are now a central part of many beauty regimens. In many ways, the Egyptians were ahead of their time. They understood that true beauty came from within, and that maintaining your body was a spiritual practice as much as it was a physical one. But beauty in ancient Egypt wasn't limited to just skincare and cosmetics, it was a way of life. The Egyptians were obsessed with achieving balance and harmony in their lives. This wasn't just about outward appearance, it was about being in alignment with the cosmos, the gods, and the forces of nature. This deep understanding of balance and harmony extended into all areas of Egyptian life, from how they decorated their tombs to how they structured their society. Beauty was never just about vanity, it was a spiritual pursuit, a way of maintaining order and peace in the world. This philosophy of beauty as a holistic practice is something we see echoed in modern wellness trends. The rise of self-care, holistic health, and mindfulness in today's world is, in many ways, a return to the ancient Egyptian ideals. Just as the Egyptians used beauty rituals to maintain balance and protect themselves from evil, we now use self-care practices to nurture our bodies and minds, to ground ourselves, and to find peace in a chaotic world. We may not be anointing ourselves with frankincense or wearing elaborate wigs, but we are embracing the same principles. Beauty, health, and spiritual well-being are all intertwined. Historians still debate how much the ancient Egyptians understood about the therapeutic benefits of their beauty rituals and how much of it was driven by spiritual or symbolic beliefs. Some argue that the Egyptians saw beauty practices as a form of protection and connection to the divine, while others believe they were simply part of a complex system of social and religious customs. Regardless of the exact motivations, one thing is clear. The ancient Egyptians saw beauty as much more than just skin deep. It was about maintaining health, aligning with the gods, and ensuring that one's life was in harmony with the forces of nature. In modern times, we often see beauty rituals as a luxury or a way to pamper ourselves. But ancient Egypt reminds us that beauty is not just a commodity or an aesthetic goal, it's a tool for spiritual and physical health. The beauty practices of ancient Egypt were about protecting and preserving the body, ensuring that it remained in perfect condition for both life and the afterlife. These practices were an integral part of Egyptian culture, and they continue to influence our modern ideas about beauty, wellness, and self-care. As we conclude our journey into the fascinating world of ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, it's important to reflect on the deeper meanings behind these practices. Beauty, as the Egyptians understood it, was never just about looking good, it was about maintaining harmony with the divine and with the natural world. It was a spiritual pursuit as much as it was a physical one. In many ways, the Egyptians were among the first to understand that true beauty comes from within, and that it's deeply connected to our overall well-being. As we go about our own beauty routines, perhaps we can take a page from the ancient Egyptians. We can view our self-care not just as a way to look good, but as a way to maintain balance, protect ourselves, and connect with something greater. Whether it's through skincare, physical fitness, or mindfulness, we can embrace beauty as a holistic practice that nurtures both our body and our spirit. And who knows, maybe we'll find that the timeless wisdom of the ancient Egyptians has something to offer us in our modern world. Their beauty rituals were about much more than just outward appearance. They were about creating harmony, peace, and balance in life. They understood that beauty was a reflection of the soul, and in a way, we can all take a little inspiration from that. As we reach the final stretch of our journey through ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, let's explore how these fascinating practices transcend time, culture, and geography. The influence of Egyptian beauty ideals has not only impacted the modern beauty industry, but has seeped into cultural symbols, art, and even fashion across the world. It's incredible to think that thousands of years after the Egyptians perfected their beauty routines, we are still borrowing from their wisdom in ways we might not even realize. One of the key legacies that has endured through the centuries is the way the ancient Egyptians blended beauty and function. Their beauty rituals were never just about looking pretty. They were deeply connected to health, protection, and spiritual well-being. As we look at modern beauty products, we can see that this holistic approach is still very much alive. From skincare to makeup, we increasingly find products that promise not only to enhance appearance but also to promote health. Think of the rise of natural, organic skincare lines that focus on the wellness of your skin rather than just covering imperfections. The emphasis on self-care, mindfulness, and finding balance is a trend that's very much rooted in the wisdom of ancient Egypt. Take, for example, the resurgence of interest in essential oils. In ancient Egypt, oils like frankincense, myrrh, and sesame weren't just used for cosmetic purposes. They were thought to have spiritual significance, as well as physical and emotional benefits. The Egyptians used oils to protect their skin, calm their minds, and connect with the divine. Fast forward to today, and we see essential oils being used for everything from skincare to aromatherapy, helping us to maintain balance in our fast-paced, modern lives. Whether it's lavender to relax, eucalyptus to refresh, or frankincense to meditate, we're still using the same principles the Egyptians applied centuries ago. Beyond oils and perfumes, the ancient Egyptians' focus on physical health through beauty rituals can also be seen in today's wellness practices. Physical activity, fitness, and holistic health weren't foreign concepts to the Egyptians. They were essential to their beauty regimen. In fact, many of the beauty practices they engaged in also contributed to a healthy, active lifestyle. The emphasis on fitness in ancient Egypt is mirrored in today's world, where physical health has become an integral part of beauty and self-care. Just like the Egyptians, we now recognize the importance of physical well-being in maintaining our beauty and vitality. The trend of body-positive fitness and the rise of wellness centers focused on holistic beauty further showcase the ongoing influence of ancient Egyptian ideals. Then there's the aspect of beauty being a means of protection. For the Egyptians, beauty wasn't just for aesthetic purposes. It was tied to spiritual protection, to shielding oneself from negative forces, and to ensuring divine favor. Today, many of us still seek protection in our beauty rituals, whether it's using products to protect our skin from the harmful effects of the sun, or choosing makeup that enhances our features while guarding against pollutants. There's an underlying theme of protection in our beauty routines that directly reflects ancient Egyptian practices. The beauty industry's obsession with anti-aging treatments also finds its roots in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians, much like today's beauty enthusiasts, were highly concerned with preserving youthfulness and ensuring their beauty would be everlasting. The use of oils, balms, and various skincare routines was not only about keeping the skin moisturized, but also about preventing aging and maintaining a youthful appearance. And just as Cleopatra, Nefertiti, and other royal figures were known for their youthful and radiant skin, today's beauty industry continues to thrive on anti-aging products that promised to defy time and keep us looking youthful. The Egyptians' meticulous care of their skin was driven by both health and aesthetics, and this mindset lives on in the multi-billion-dollar beauty industry we see today. Moreover, the ancient Egyptians understood that beauty rituals were about the mind and soul as much as the body. The act of beautifying oneself was a way of connecting with the divine, with one's community, and with the forces of nature. In modern wellness and beauty practices, we continue to embrace this mind-body-spirit connection. The rise of practices like mindfulness, meditation, and self-care rituals, whether it's applying a face mask or enjoying a soothing bath, show that we still see beauty as a way to align ourselves with something greater, whether that's a sense of inner peace or a connection to the natural world. Historians still argue whether the ancient Egyptians truly believed that beauty could influence their afterlife, or whether their beauty rituals were simply a reflection of the era's social and spiritual practices. Some argue that their devotion to beauty was deeply tied to their religious beliefs, while others suggest it was a way to project status and power. But what's clear is that beauty rituals, especially those practiced by the elite, weren't just about outward appearance. They were about maintaining order, alignment with the divine, and preparing for an eternal existence. The ancient Egyptians believed that beauty could transcend time, and in many ways, their rituals are still influencing the beauty standards we hold today. As we wrap up our exploration of ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, it's amazing to think about how far-reaching their influence island. From the beauty products we use, to the way we approach self-care and wellness, the wisdom of the ancient Egyptians has persisted throughout the ages. They understood that true beauty wasn't just about looking good, it was about feeling connected, balanced, and at peace with oneself and the universe. So, as you go about your own beauty routine, whether you're applying perfume, using a favorite skincare product, or simply taking a moment for self-care, remember that you're part of a long tradition that dates back thousands of years. Just as the ancient Egyptians used their beauty rituals to align with the divine, you can think of your own rituals as a way to care for your body, mind, and spirit. Beauty, as they knew, is not just about appearance, it's about creating balance, embracing health, and honoring the divine within. As we conclude this journey through the fascinating world of ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, let's slow down a bit and reflect on what these practices truly meant. These rituals were more than just an effort to beautify the body, they were ways to align the individual with the divine, with nature, and with the cosmos. Every beauty practice, from the use of oils and perfumes to body art and wigs, had a deeper, spiritual connection. Beauty was not only for the here and now, it was a means of achieving eternal favor from the gods, a way of preserving one's divine essence for the afterlife. In modern society, we often view beauty routines as individualistic pursuits, something we do to enhance our own appearance or boost our self-confidence. But looking back at ancient Egypt, we can see that beauty was never just about vanity. It was a holistic practice that incorporated health, spirituality, and an understanding of the natural world. Just as ancient Egyptians connected their beauty practices with their religious beliefs and their ideas of the afterlife, we too have begun to recognize the importance of self-care and wellness as part of a balanced and spiritually fulfilling life. Today, the world has changed, but there are still many elements of ancient Egyptian beauty rituals that continue to influence us. For instance, the use of oils, perfumes, and cosmetics is still a major part of our modern beauty industry. But now, we also understand the therapeutic and medicinal properties of these products. The Egyptians may have started this tradition thousands of years ago, but today, many of the oils and perfumes they used are still considered essential to modern skincare and wellness. Similarly, the concept of beauty as something that connects the body with the spiritual realm is not entirely lost on us. Practices such as mindfulness, meditation, and holistic healing have risen in popularity as we try to achieve balance and inner peace. Beauty, in many ways, has evolved to encompass not just our external appearance, but also how we nurture our inner selves. The Egyptians believed that beauty was about aligning with the divine, and in today's wellness culture, we often look to beauty rituals as a way to connect with our own sense of self and purpose. The Egyptians' understanding of beauty as a form of spiritual protection was also significant. The idea that beauty practices could ward off evil and protect one's well-being was central to their routines. While we may not use kohl to ward off the evil eye, Many people today still turn to beauty rituals as a form of protection, whether it's through the use of soothing oils, calming skincare routines, or even the act of dressing up for a special occasion to empower ourselves. The desire to feel protected and confident in our own skin is something that echoes the same ancient instincts that the Egyptians had. And when we think about the afterlife, the Egyptians were undoubtedly ahead of their time in their desire to preserve beauty for eternity. Their understanding of mummification and the beauty rituals involved in that process show just how deeply ingrained the idea of beauty as eternal was in their culture. The use of gold, lapis lazuli, and other precious materials to adorn the deceased wasn't just about wealth, it was about preserving the divine essence of the person for eternity. Today, while we may not prepare for the afterlife in the same way, the concept of legacy, what we leave behind, remains just as important. The idea that our beauty, our health, and our spirit are interconnected with the legacy we leave behind is something that still resonates deeply in modern society. We may not use the same methods as the Egyptians, but the desire to be remembered, to leave an impact, and to be connected to something greater than ourselves remains universal. As we finish this exploration into ancient Egyptian beauty rituals, it's clear that these practices were much more than just superficial routines. They were a reflection of a culture that believed beauty was a sacred, spiritual, and essential part of life. The Egyptians understood that beauty was not merely about how one looked, but about how one lived in alignment with the divine and the natural order. Their beauty rituals were a way of ensuring divine favor, protecting their well-being, and preparing for eternal life. In many ways, they saw beauty as an integral part of their spiritual journey. In modern times, we can look to these ancient practices as a reminder that beauty is not just something external. It is something that comes from within, something that connects us to our higher selves in the world around us. Whether through our skincare routines, fitness practices, or mindfulness rituals, we are continuing the legacy of ancient civilizations that understood the profound power of beauty as a force for health, balance, and spiritual connection. So, as you wind down and reflect on your own beauty rituals, think of them not just as a way to look good, but as a way to nurture your spirit, protect your well-being, and connect to something greater. Like the ancient Egyptians, you too can view beauty as a holistic practice, one that aligns you with the divine, with nature, and with the cosmos. Just as they used beauty to navigate the complexities of life and the afterlife, you can use your beauty rituals to create balance and harmony in your own life. Now, as you close your eyes and drift off into a peaceful slumber, remember that beauty is eternal and it is within you. Sweet dreams.